G'day everyone. So, we all know about the evil clones and twisted variants of Optimus Prime, but what about his eventual successor Rodimus? Well, as the future leader of the Autobots, he too has had a few wicked doppelgangers of his own. Obviously we all know about his shattered glass variant who constantly tried to usurp the evil Optimus Prime with his wreckers, as well as his machinima variant in Power of the Primes that was possessed by none other than Mr. Howdy. Until he eventually fought Megatronus. However, I'm more interested in the clones from his Japanese continuity, more specifically Dark Hot Rod and Black Rodimus Convoy. First, we'll focus on Dark Hot Rod, who was a clone created by Shockwave alongside many other Autobots like Trax, Brawn, Windcharger, Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, who were instructed to find and destroy their Autobot counterparts to prevent any future successors of Optimus. Dark Hot Rod chases the original into a crystal cave, however the pair become bathed in light of the crystal fountain, turning Hot Rod into Crystal Hot Rod, and Dark Hot Rod into an ally by giving the clone a sense of self. The pair then become shaky allies with the singular goal of destroying the lab that originally created them. When the other Dark clones began to attack the Autobots on the moon base, both Hot Rods invaded Shockwave's lab before coming face to face with the mad scientist himself. Shockwave is amused that the pair would attempt to destroy his lab, as he makes his former experiment aware that should the lab cease functioning, so will all of the clones created from it. Refusing to be swayed, the clone frees himself from Shockwave's grasp by blasting his hand, which, by the way, Shockwave with two hands? Okay. Dark tells Hot Rod that it'll be alright and that he is prepared to do this, with his one wish for Hot Rod to take his fishing rod for Daniel before driving into the lab's central computer. Although destroyed, his last action has his energy merge with Hot Rod, forming the new warrior Hot Rodimus. Being empowered with the spirit and wishes of his clone, they together now do battle against Shockwave before slicing him in two. Unfortunately, this was not the real Shockwave, revealing to the Autobot that this is not the end and that the Decepticons will return victorious. Soon after, we see Hot Rod asking Daniel how to fish, using the rod left to him by his clone, as we eventually see occur in the movie. There's also, I think, the same Dark Hot Rod, which is a playable character in the original PS2 game, which I think is a really cool connection. However, the other clone that I'm going to talk about now has no such redemption about him, and is in my opinion the most twisted and complex version of Rodimus. So, remember that one G1 episode where the toll of being the bearer of the Matrix becomes too much for Rodimus?
Since when am I the only one who can solve everybody's problems?
Well, this variant is the manifestation of his insecurities and fears of being a leader. So being thrust into this position with very little experience, Rodimus would constantly question himself as leader. This would cause him great emotional distress that birthed a twisted personality that began to grow self-aware. Somehow, this summation of emotions would begin to operate separately from Rodimus, wanting to have a form of its own until it was noticed by none other than the ghost of Starscream, who was willing to grant its wishes in return for its servitude. Putting Rodimus into a trance-like state, Starscream and Rodimus's fear-fueled personality lead the Autobot to a clone synthesizer and extract a negative form into a body of its own, free from the shackles of its former host. Before he has a chance to understand what's happening, Black Hot Rodimus leaps out of the pod and onto him, tearing into his chest and ripping the Matrix out of his body, with it becoming Black Rodimus Convoy. All the while remarking that he is simply giving him what he wanted, to relieve him of his burden of the Matrix, claiming that he will be able to do what Rodimus could not, and control not only Autobots, but Decepticons too, until it could control all life in the universe itself, demonstrating what a true leader is. Although not shown, this leads to a great battle that forces Rodimus to finally confront his fears head-on in his greatest battle yet. As I mentioned, we don't actually know what happened during this confrontation, but it is safe to assume that Rodimus eventually defeats his doppelganger, but it would greatly change his outlook towards being a leader. So, whether it's by possession, a scientist experiment gone wrong, a personality disorder given form, or a being from a separate universe entirely, it goes to show that should Hot Rod ever change sides, he would be a very fearsome foe to face.
You've had worse times.
Yeah, when do they get better? That's what I want to know.
What's eating you?
I don't know, Cup. I feel boxed in.
Like the weight of the world rests on your shoulders?
Yeah,
Like you want to run away?
and how?